Good morning. Thanks for coming back to Scale Models Midwest. I'm Dave, and in the great city of Altoona, Iowa. What you see before you is about 3.5 hours worth of work building the 1973 Richard Petty Dodge Charger from Salvinos JR. Model kits. That's an awesome kit, but it will tax your patience in some areas where there are really small parts. I mean, looking at some of the chassis work here, really small parts like the shock plates that go on the back of the rear end assembly. I try to do these up in kind of sub-assemblies so they can be painted the same color. Most of this will get hit with a flat black base coat with the exception of the body, and that'll be a white base coat. Then the light color, which will be painting Tamiya TS23, and then we'll be utilizing the decals for the vermilion. Not quite there yet as far as masking and doing two-tone paint schemes. I've done more straight line ones. This one has a lot of curves, and just not ready to do that one yet. But as time goes on, yeah, we'll do it. But as you can see, we're ready to paint the kit. I'll be posting another video later today showing me painting this in my paint booth. I'll be using basically from the can spraying. I do have a Grec airbrush and a compressor that I bought about a year and a half ago that I'm going to be breaking in soon, I promise. But I've had really good experience just using paints from the can. If you take your time, no different than building the kit. Take your time with your paint, take your time with your prep, and it'll work out well for you. A good example would be in the chassis. If you notice, the chassis itself doesn't have any mold marks on it. Well, it's because I sanded them off. Used a 600 grit sanding stick to get the mold marks off. You could also use CA glue and baking soda to kind of fill holes or indents. I did the same thing up under the hood, did much the same thing. And then of course the mold lines around the fender tops, any kind of parting line, even when you put together the rear valance and the front valance, much the same way. I love this kit. The more I spent time with it in building it, even with the fiddly small parts, the more I loved it. I watched some guys when they were building the chassis, mocking it up for the roll cage, and I decided to do the same thing. I built the roll cage separate from the chassis. I did put the front piece together, and again, it's just about taking time. Don't put together your model and think in 30 seconds it's going to be sticking there. Some people use 5-minute epoxy. I personally use, for almost every single bit of my build, Instacure. And you got this, I think there's other types. We've got a hobby shop in Ankeny called Hobbytown. This is their brand of their CA glue. And if I want something to set quickly, I just use some Instaset. This is from another hobby shop in town, from Hobby Haven. It's worked out for me for all the kits that I've built. The only thing I have left to do is I have to sand the tires, give them that race-worn look. But as you see here, the majority of the body, the firewall, chassis, roll cage will all be done in the TS23 light blue, which is a close representation of Petty blue. MCW Paint Finishes has the exact match paints. I thought at first I would do that for the extra detail build, but I'm going to go a different route with that. As soon as I get the decal sheet for the one that I chose, I think you'll like it. I know I showed it to my daughter. I showed different types of 73 Dodge Chargers that ran during the season, and we picked one out that I liked, and I showed it to her, showed it to my wife. They both agreed it was a good paint color and kind of like a lesser known racer, but they've got some history to one of the current drivers in NASCAR. If that kind of gives it away, those of you who might know, those of you who don't, you'll still be pleasantly surprised. But anyhow, I wanted to show you this and get everything over to the paint booth. You'll see me as I paint that later on today. But I wanted to show you one more item before we go. So here it is. The kit of the month. Salvinos JR came through. They were a little late in getting these kits out, and on the Salvinos builders group, there were some people kind of grousing, maybe half jokingly, and then some were a little on the serious side about the delays. But seriously, it was explained to us by Chris and by Jim Rogers from Salvinos JR that one, COVID hit their suppliers for chrome as well as for some of the other parts of the build. And then, you know, I accepted that. I think the majority of us accepted that. They came out with the kit. We knew it was coming. It shipped. We got billed. Now it's here. It's a great kit. The Junior Johnson Racing 1983 Chevrolet Monte Carlo, driven by none other than Darrell Waltrip. Pretty cool. Number 11, Pepsi Challenger. I can't wait to build this kit. I've already seen some people on the Salvinos build group that have this already mocked up and in the paint, white with some of the yellow on there. I've got to find out what the yellow is. They're talking about it. This is also a 1/24 scale kit. So this is off of the old monogram molds. We've had this kit mocked up before from other kits, and it is just a fantastic kit. It's going to go together really well. I'm not going to take everything out of the bags, but as you can see, the whole bag of beautiful styrene. Look at that chassis. Very well done. All the indents in it, of course. Might be a little tough to get to the mold lines, but you know what? We're going to do it. This will be another quick build. And of course, very sparing or sparse chrome tree. But a lot of these cars just did not have a lot of chrome. So, you know, deal with it. It's a great kit. It was all about what was underneath the hood and the driver, and it was great. But then, of course, one thing that Salvinos is really, really good about is decal sheets. They give you extras. This one here, of course, 43 Plymouth. It also says 1976D. I'm going to assume the D stands for Daytona. But it's not just the only one here. It has extras. Of course, Salvinos like to include a little sticker. This is a new one. This is way cool. It's going to go with my collection. And eventually, I'll probably put together a board to set that up. But, add that decal sheet. Another one for 1983. And I believe this is also for the Monte Carlo, number 28 Hardee's. Loved going to Hardee's. I actually worked for them in high school a little bit. But then, got another decal sheet for the Pepsi Challenger. Now here's the thing, it already comes with a decal sheet for the Pepsi Challenger, so why do you have a second one? Well, it's in case you screw up. But if you don't, you got this extra decal sheet. Fantasy build. And I've actually got something in mind with some other kits that I've got that hopefully later on this year I can have come to fruition, where I use decals from one of these kits to build a what-if fantasy build. I don't know, we'll just have to see. But anyhow, decals are in the sheet as well, just as you can see here. Okay, I like how they have the sheet of paper covering it, and what's really cool about that is it helps you when you're working on masking for your paint jobs. I have done some paint jobs on other cars. When I set up the painting this afternoon for the Petty, I'll show you some of the ones that I have built. More recent one that I did was the Valvoline number 27 that I did do a masking and paint job with, and those sheets that they use to protect the decals when they're shipping it came in really handy when I went to mask for the paint job. So this is going to be another build here, hopefully not too far down the road. The extensive build that I plan on doing with the other Dodge Charger, it's going to take a while, so I've got to build some other stuff in the meantime. But with that, I'm going to post this online. Hope you like it. Like and subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications, and then later on this evening I'll have another post of this in paint. See you then.